So before we continue with the rest of the medical sessions, I would like to invite the Deputy Director General of Recreation and Sports Development at the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, South Africa, Sumayya Khan, to say a few words. And Ms. Khan is no stranger to breaking barriers and paving the way for women in sport. As being appointed the first Deputy Director General, Ms. Khan is passionate about getting more people active and more often and using sport as a tool for social cohesion, nation building, and safe communities for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Deputy Director General Sumayya Khan.
Okay. Anyway. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I'm very tempted to make everyone stand and do a jig. But I know I stand between you and lunch, so I won't take much of your time. But let me recognize the leadership of cricket that are present here. And importantly, let me recognize Ms. Ntambira Vele, who's been a long time mentor, colleague, friend, fighter. We fight a lot more than we friends, but we know what we fight about, and it's never malice. Who is the chairperson of the LOC, will vote for the Under-19 Women's Cricket World Cup and now for the T20 Women's Cricket World Cup. And then to our good friend, Mr. Max Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, Max thinks I work for him. And I say this to everyone, Max, and it was such a coincidence. One of the colleagues came to me and she says, you know, Max thinks we work for Cricket South Africa. I said, you know, I also had that feeling. So Max, thank you very much. I know we fight a lot as well, but we know that we all have the same vision. And at the end of the day, sport should be the winner. So ladies and gentlemen, it is really a pleasure to address you this morning. I know it was not planned, but let me indicate that, you know, we've come from a very difficult 2 years of COVID, of no sport, of being isolated, of trying to get our sector, you know, to be remunerated, to see how we help people who've lost an income. The mental health and the mental aspects of the impact of COVID, we're not able to measure, but we do know it was devastating. And I think we need to acknowledge and really appreciate how the sports sector rallied behind each other to make sure that we put a plan in place. So let me appreciate the work that Cricket South Africa had done in advising us as the department, as government, advising the minister, pushing us all the time to make sure we do the best for our athletes and for administrators so that, you know, we got to where we wanted to. And Max, I think I must tell the story. You know, colleagues, in December 2020, Sri Lanka was coming in an incoming tour to play against the Proteas. And there were all these restrictions in terms of the regulations, where you can't have more than so many people, broadcasters, etc. And Max would phone, but no, we're going to do it this way. We've got, you know, if we put 5 people there and 6 people there, we're still meeting the regulations. So he was doing everything to try and make sure he's compliant with the regulation, but he's not compliant as well. So, and these are the fights we were having with Max, you know, that Max, don't do this, it will not work. You're going to be in trouble. And ladies and gentlemen, in December, I had COVID and I had to go into hospital. I spent 13 days in hospital from the 27th out of December to early January. and I was very depressed. I had COVID pneumonia. And the doctor the specialist says to me, he doesn't know. I kept saying, so when am I going to get better? He says, none of us know any of these things. And it's a marathon. So in all this COVID story, I could still think, marathons are quite exciting in my world. So I said, where I come from, it's very exciting. And next to me in the hospital bed, there was a lady who was 87 years old. And he says, you just have to be patient. Look at this woman. She's coming out of ICU. And you could hear her animated talking to someone on the phone. And she says to the person, no, I'm fine. I'm doing well. And I'm just watching TV. And she says, yes, it's the cricket. South Africa's playing Sri Lanka. And we're doing so well. And I'm telling the doctor, you know what? I've been fighting with colleague Max Jordan about this match. And here is somebody who's coming out of COVID. And she's enjoying things that we fought about, that we work hard for in sport. And it really gave me hope that, you know what, I have much more to do in life. Because look at her, there's a woman who's come out of ICU and she's enjoying cricket. So thank you very much, colleagues, for what you do in sport and what you do without anyone knowing, but it makes such a difference to people's lives. Ladies and gentlemen, on the point of major events, I think one of the issues coming out of COVID, we know that everyone of us, especially in government, but everyone in every sector, you've had to look at ways and means of ensuring that we improve the economy. Everything is much more expensive. Business has closed down. So much has happened. So one of the things is we as government have put down as our economic recovery strategy was the hosting of major international sporting events, because we believe that there's so much more. We can create jobs, we improve the economy by actually making sure people come into the events. We raise, I don't want to go there, but there are tourists who come into the country. Yes, they come, sports tourists come into the country. I mean, look at all the people. I mean, last night, there were a whole lot of people we met who've come there, not only because they're team members, but they also all the supporters and the work that they have to do. Besides being on the cricket field, there's a whole host of people that come and support the sports industry. So there's so much that we can do in terms of, growing the economy through the events. So Cricket South Africa has been very good, I think, with the Under-19 World Cup, with the T20 World Cup now, and all the other events that they have. I mean, we've just had basically, even from the SA20, asking Max to give us information, and we can already see the benefits it is. And this is just one of many events that we will be hosting in South Africa. And I think, importantly for me, being in the women's cricket, bringing in all of these women cricket events tells me I've come full circle. I started off as a PE teacher. And I started, I know I don't want to say which year, but, girls never played cricket. And we started off when mini cricket was offered for anyone. And girls started playing cricket. But after 10 years old, the boys then went on to play hardball cricket, but there was nothing for the girls. And I had a whole lot of young girls who said, now, what about us? We also played with the boys, but look at where the boys are going into. They're playing under 11 and under 12, and they're going into the clubs and playing cricket, and there's nothing for us, which actually spurred me on to say, what do we do about women's cricket and young girls? And hence my involvement with cricket at the time. And as I said to Mtambi the other day, 1996, I was the first team manager of the KwaZulu-Natal women's under-19 team. And here I was standing at the final of the under-19 Women's World Cup, looking at us first time ever having an under-19 World Cup, and it's being hosted here in South Africa. So it was a very emotional moment seeing how women's cricket has developed, and the opportunities there are for women, not only in cricket as players, but in the whole ecosystem of sport. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we've come a long way, but I think there's so much more for women that we need to do in sport. it's still a journey for us. And I think we've made strides. Look at many of our athletes, and I'm really, really pleased that Cricket South Africa or the ICC have also recognized other sports women in all the profiles that they've put together in the trophy tour of using all of our icons in South Africa. I cannot, that's such an amazing thing to see Natalie du Toit, Caster Semenya, Desiree Ellis, all of them now really getting behind cricket. And that's what sport is about. We may be in our little corners, talking about netball or talking about cricket and football. But at the end of the day, when there's something big happening in the country, we need to all work together. And I really appreciate the opportunities that cricket gives us and the other codes to work with them in this. But coming back to women in sport, I think, for a long time, we've been saying we need a policy for women in sport. And I think we've taken a long time. Ntambi got very impatient. And she actually led a delegation to tell us where to jump off. And we appreciate that, because at some point when you're working all the time and you think you're doing the right thing, and somebody needs to tell you, hey, these things are not right. And you've got to listen, because there's a whole host of knowledge coming through. So thank you very much, Ntambi, for that. And I think we've come a long way where the women in sport policy is. And I think there's lots of initiative at an international level with the IOC who are looking at policy issues around not only women, but gender, equity, inclusion. And that's a very exciting development that we're also keeping an eye on, because we need to see the merger of our own policy and also the policies around us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think also this major events, the learnings for me is that it lends itself to many things. Look at this conference, has brought so many of us together. And thank you for the opportunity, Cricket South Africa, for also allowing us to bring younger people who I think are amazed at the experience, at being here and listening to the valuable information that comes through. And it just shows us that when we work in our little corners, we don't realize that sport is so much more than just going out there, fun and games, that there's a whole industry around the actual athlete and the coach and everything else that we do in sport. And I think that's what we must appreciate. And I think it's really, really undermined. Nobody knows how much sport is and what effect it has on people's lives. And there's so many opportunities for us. Yes, it may not have so many job opportunities, but there's so much you can do in terms of the knowledge that you have, in imparting the knowledge and and being involved even as a volunteer. So thank you very much for all the efforts, Cricket South Africa and everybody else who works with you, for their passion for sport, for their commitment and diligence to duty. We really, really appreciate it. And we know this conference is actually a precursor to the games, and it just displays that it displays around major events. There's so much more you can do. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference and enjoy a very successful event. And thank you, CEO, for always supporting us, and for the manner in which we engage at all times. We really appreciate it. We've come into a merger between sport, arts, and culture. And okay, fine, you can say we're biased, but we always say to everybody, you always hear of all this rebellion with our other colleagues and their sector and the stakeholders. But we must appreciate that we as a sector always respect and the political leadership and always engage. So we thank you for that. Thank you very much.